Hey, good evening, Skyflight Stories. Good evening, everybody. Hope you guys are good. Hope het gaan goed samen met julle. Tonight in the studio, I have with me author and motivational speaker Earl Smiles. And Earl has written quite a few books. Also, he speaks, about a lot of topics. And he can introduce himself and talk more about his journey, writing, and so on. You guys want to tune in. You guys want to be part of this discussion. He's very much clued up, and he always comment in the post, and you can see his passion for our people. But without any further ado, please do welcome Earl. Earl, welcome to Cape Flood Stories.
Good evening, Stan. It's a privilege and thank you for this opportunity. Good evening to all your followers on Cape Fred Stories. It's indeed an honor to be part of the show. I don't think you may comprehend the influence that you have on us as
Yeah.
ordinary people that actually tune into your discussions that you have and the input
Mhm.
that and the impact that you actually have on our people. So to be a part of this is actually quite significant. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Earl. Earl, you started writing many years ago. Just tell us about your journey and the topics that you wrote about. I don't think people actually know that Earl writes. We always see you on Facebook commenting, but I just went through a few of your stories, and I actually find it fascinating. Normally, an author don't just write; they write from a place where they have knowledge and where they have pain. And in your case, I can actually see you have been somewhere in life where you've gained a lot of knowledge. Just tell us about that journey, Earl.
Yeah, I think, Stan, growing up, obviously, like most of us grow up in poverty and most of us grow up in what I like to term as dysfunctional families at times where you find yourself in a position where you're living in a household where your parents are not married or you have a stepdad or a stepmom
Mhm.
uh, and you have siblings, each having their own fathers as well. And then you have to make life sort of work out. Now, I think as a child, I didn't want to accept that I was abnormal in terms of my family setup.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I became extremely naughty. Ek sê altyd ek was een van die kinders wat jou ma gesê het as ek wil weer maar hy bliksem kry, né? As jy in die moeilikheid is. So people will want not to play with me, but I also had the ability to sort of choose my friends in a sense that would benefit my needs at the time.
Mhm.
So if I woke up today and I was hungry and I never ate, I will choose the best person to visit after school where I would potentially get a slice
Mhm.
of bread, something to
Yeah.
eat. And as time would go, when nightfall would dawn on me, that became also a challenge. So at times I had to make sure that I was at the right house at the right
Mhm.
time in the
Mhm.
evening so that I could potentially be offered a place to sleep. And if that didn't work out, I used to sleep in broken cars and empty
Yeah.
cars. And
Mhm.
we didn't have crime. We know we had gangsters.
Yeah.
There was crime, but not in crime in the sense that we're having it at the moment where I'm too scared to go out of my door without
Mhm.
watching my back. So sleeping in an empty car, I wasn't even bothered about what dangers would befall me during the night. As long as I could lay my head down and be ready for school in the morning, that would be it. So as a result of that, I think my mom couldn't handle me. Like I said, we were five siblings, and my mom just couldn't handle me. I'm the second eldest.
Mhm.
And she decided to call in child welfare, as we used to call it during the apartheid era. I think today it's called social services. And she went to them to say, you know what, I just can't handle this boy. Maybe you guys need to do something. And then I was sent to a place called a place of safety. It's almost like
Mhm.
I think in Cape Town they had Ottery,
Yes.
Ottery
Yes.
boys.
Yes.
I
Ghost
went to
town.
the
Yes.
place of safety. I
Mhm.
went to place of safety. It was actually called Van Rijn, place of safety. So you were practically locked up. It was like a
Mhm.
juvenile center, if one could call it, for lack of a better word. And I
Mhm.
think it's there where I actually realized, you know what, I am in this place. I'm actually better off than being at home because here I'm secured of 3 meals a day. I can go to school. But obviously there was the manual and the hard labor that used to follow after school because we had to clean those stoops and we had to clean the gardens.
Yeah.
And then on Sundays used to be like a visitation point. But now for my stay in Van Ryn, I never had one visitor. My stepdad, coincidentally, before my time, used to be one of the most revered uh, 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 persons looking after children in Van Ryn. And I was just happy that I wasn't there in his time because I know what I experienced back home with my stepdad. He wasn't an
Mm-hmm.
easy. So it was also in Van Ryn where the first time I had to write a letter to my mother. It was
Mm-hmm.
part of school. You know, you used to write comprehension and letters and all of that. And I had to write a letter to my mom. And at that point, I realized I never called my mom. I used to call her by a name which was Imelda at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She passed on when I was in standard seven, rest or so. But can you imagine being a young boy in standard one, having to write a letter to your mom, and you realize, but I don't call this woman mom. And it wasn't something unusual. I actually used to call her Aunt Melda, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then somehow I must have come to my senses in Van Ryn, but I wasn't sent back home because most guys that didn't fit in either ran away, and when they
Mm-hmm.
came back, they came to Cape Town because the Ottery Boys Town was the worst place in Van Ryn.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you didn't last there or if you didn't behave there, you would be sent somewhere else. But in my case, because I supposedly showed some potential, I was sent to children's home in Westbury, in Johannesburg.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Nicholas Home for Boy. It was a
Yes.
much more relaxed setup where we lived in like I think we were 12 in the house and about 4 or 5 houses depending on the age group that we stayed in. But unlike in Van Ryn where the school was on the premises, in this case we were allowed to attend normal schools. So I attended Dowling Primary, which was right next to St. Nicholas Home. I actually drove past there coincidentally today because I was in Joburg this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I then attended Westbury High, where I became a prefect. I started doing assembly at school. Um, and then one year, the school had a program with what is today called UJ. At that time, it was called Rand Afrikaans University Rao. And
Mm-hmm.
they had a leadership a program, and I was sent. I don't know whether the home sent me or the school sent me. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember that well. But anyhow, I ended up there, and lo and behold, on that weekend, I started writing, and they wanted to put together a newspaper for that weekend, and I was made the newspaper editor.
Wow.
And
Wow.
never did I ever think that one day I would be writing. I always knew I was good at giving speeches because
Mm-hmm.
at the home, if they invited sponsors or donors or board
Mm-hmm.
game, it was always the guy asked to thank them or to make a speech on behalf of my fellow homeboys, as we were called back then. And that was it. Then I started to work. My life started to change. I got retrenched. My vehicle got repossessed.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I had lost everything, but
Mm-hmm.
somehow I just knew that what I endured as a child
Yeah.
could not be prepared as an adult. And I wanted to pursue just getting something. I applied at Pick and Pay for a job, and I got in there at Boxburg Hyper. It was the biggest hypermarket in the country at the time as a cashier. And I used to
Mm-hmm.
apply for every single position on their notice boards until Penny Farmer, the HR manager, once called me. She said to me, "Oh, we see your applications, but sometimes you apply for stuff that is way beyond your reach." So my response was simple. I said, "Maybe in your view, it was beyond my reach. I
Mm-hmm.
knew I had the ability, but unless somebody gives me the chance, I
Mm-hmm.
won't be able to prove myself." I then applied for trainee manager position at Pick and Pay Hyper. And I didn't get the position at the Hypers, but the superstores, which was another division of Pick and Pay, they saw my potential. And
Mm,
at the same time that the hypermarket declined me, the superstores appointed me as a trainee manager. So
mm,
as my career progressed, through Pick and Pay, I later on joined Woolies. And one day I was now married by this time, and I was mowing the lawn at my house, and I thought about all the people that just in their small but yet significant ways aided me through this
mm.
journey of life. Gave me old clothes to wear, old shoes,
Yeah.
a nice shirt. Somebody taught me how to tie a tie, gave
Mm,
me food, place to sleep. And I wondered, I said, how do I ever thank these people
yeah.
for what they've done? And then I started a football club in the community of Halakfel. It's in
Mm,
Gauteng where I live. It's quite a successful team, had over 200 members, girls,
yeah.
young boys, senior boys. And we were actually quite adventurous in some of the things that we took on. But at
Yeah.
that time, still, I didn't think about writing until one day I think it was around about 2009, I drove from Vereniging to Clarksdorp, where I now live, and they interviewed, guess who? Gayton McKenzie on
Wow.
radio. They
Mm-mm.
interviewed Gayton McKenzie. At the time, he had just released his book called The Choice, and he was explaining the issue of the content of the choice and what made him write the book. And I sat there in my car and I said to myself, this is nonsense, man. This guy comes from jail. He's a prisoner
Mm.
and he's writing a book. What stops me from telling my story?
Yeah.
When I got home that night, I started writing my book, and so many people don't believe me. But in less than 2 weeks, I completed the book, which
Mm-mm.
is called My Quest for Happiness, and I jotted my entire life story down. And yeah, and that's how I started writing.
And I think it is somebody like Gayton that encouraged you, that motivated you, someone that nobody would have. When you look at Gayton's story, you don't think this is possible. This man is now already running for a mayor, but yeah, he's inspiring young boys and men, that was in the same situation as himself. And many times you would know, you a self-published author, it's very difficult to get our books out there. So it's you write a book, but it's very challenging as well. How has that journey been for you? I mean, you've written the book here, you have the story, and I solely believe this, that we colored people have good stories to tell. Our stories can potentially save other young people. How has your journey been this far, getting your book out there?
Stan, just before I answer that question, let me just say I agree with you.
Mm-mm.
Everybody certainly has a story to tell, and we need to encourage people to tell their stories irrespective of the circumstances they
That's
may
right.
face currently or the perceptions they may have about being successful or not. As long as you tell the story, somebody is interested in reading it. And I found with this book, My Quest for Happiness, some of the comments I got when I released the book from my peers at work and people that knew me within society also, you know what, this is a book that should be in school. Every child should read it. I've sent books to the Department of Education in the Northern Cape. I've sent it to the now current MSc of Education in Gauteng, Panyaza Lusufi at the time. I've sent my books to publishers. One publisher wrote back to me one day and said, your story is so interesting. I could not put it down until I'd finished your manuscript. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's no market for such a story.
Mm-mm.
Um, and then you wonder, how can this be so interesting, so intriguing that you can't put
Yeah.
it down, but you can't find a market for it? And sometimes it just boils down to the fact, Stan, that if you're not famous, if you're not well known, your
Yeah.
story seems to be less important
Mm.
than somebody that is been around the mill maybe a few times. So when
Yeah.
I wrote the Quest for Happiness, I said I'm swimming upstream. I don't
Mm-mm.
want to write a book one day when I become a CEO or God
Mm.
willing I become very rich. And now I want to tell people, you know what, I've made it because I'm here because of what I've done. Then I said, no, I want to write my story now for the ordinary person
Mm.
to read because for me the most important role model is
Mm-mm.
the uncle that lives across you in the same street. It's the
That's right.
aunt that lives down the street that gets up every single day to
Mm,
go to work and earn an honest day's living, to put
mm,
food on the table, to take a child through school. You know, black people in particular,
mm,
and I like to reference it as black people.
mm,
During the 80s, I used to travel a lot by train, and you would always see these black aunties selling Simba chips and skopas and apples and
yes.
stuff. We
Mm,
don't realize that those people have taken people through university by doing that. And
that's right.
those to me are the real role models. Those
Mm,
are the people whose stories never get told.
mm,
And when I wrote this book, I decided to do it. Yes, I self-published. To date, as I'm speaking to you, I'm on my fifth book, and
wow.
still publishers don't see my work worthy enough. But I've just
Mm,
decided, you know what? I'm not going to make somebody else make me feel inferior about my
mm,
own talents, my own abilities. I will
yeah.
continue to write, and I will
Mm,
continue to share my talent that God has bestowed upon me with whoever's interested to read, because
yeah.
hopefully, through me sharing it, they
Yeah.
get to share it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and also just listening to your story, it wasn't easy growing up. I mean, you mentioned about something about a stepfather. You mentioned something about living elsewhere. And I think that is the problem of many of our people on the Cape Flats admit as well. And our colored people, there is a daar's 'n leemte in die huis en daar sommige huise het die pa's en ma's nie. The child grows up with a grandmother or the child grow up with a mother as well and there's no father. How did that affect you? Because you know what? Yes, like I said yesterday, we are successful now, but we weren't here before we had to come here. We first had to go through a lot of of finding ourselves, and getting to know ourselves. How has this journey been? I don't know the story of your father, but I can sense, in please correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't easy for you. You had to find yourself. You had to carry yourself.
Yeah, yeah. You know, my dad, his wife, up until his death, has
Mm-mm,
never allowed me to be in the same presence in his home while she
mm-mm,
was there. I
mm-mm,
think the only time I shared the same space with her in a room, not
mm-mm,
even in a room, because I attended my father's funeral as a funeral goer. I
mm-mm,
didn't attend it with the son who has just lost his dad. So when I got the news at work that my father had passed away, I was quite frankly emotionless because I didn't
mm.
know how to react to it.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew my dad. I know of how many times I had to use his twin brother to get him to come over to his house to when I needed something. I remember one Christmas. With colored people, Christmas clothes in those days was a very important thing. If
Mm-mm,
you didn't have Christmas clothes, everybody knew something was wrong in your household. You were
yeah.
poor, you didn't have. And my father actually had the means to provide for me. But,
Mm-mm,
but because I was the so called black sheep, and not out of, may I add, not out of my father's own choice, but rather his weakness in standing up to his wife to say, you know what, yes, I am married to you, but I have this child and I need to take care of just that. He just didn't
yeah.
have the backbone to do that. So I remember one year I had to wait for him and wait for him to bring some money for me so I could buy some Christmas clothes, and it just
Mm-mm,
never happened.
yeah.
So when he passed away, it wasn't as if I have lost something, but
Mm-mm,
I was more sad in the fact that I was never really granted the opportunity to have a relationship with him, to have somebody that would guide me through life, somebody
mm,
that would say, where are you? How are you doing? What do you need? My dad had a twin brother who passed away recently, about 3 weeks ago. I attended his funeral, and he stepped in. He took me under his wings, and he guided me, and that sort of started to become the father figure in
yeah.
my life in terms of in terms of where I saw myself growing up. But within the community, and this is the beautiful thing about colored communities, especially in the old days, people used to worry about somebody else's child. So I had many fathers in my life, Stan. I may not have had a beautiful relationship with my own biological dad, but there were so many people that stepped in, that played a role. I mean, one specific person is an ex-teacher of mine. He actually edited this book, My Quest for Happiness, Ziggy Adolf,
Mm-mm.
and he wrote the forward in this book as well. And that person sort of filled a void that could have
Yeah.
been filled by father as well.
Mm. Mm.
So what I would like to say to many fatherless homes,
Mm-mm.
especially to the young men, yes, the fact that you grow up without a father becomes such a great obstacle, and it becomes something that sometimes forces you into the wrong crowd, especially in Westbury and Easterus and Restplaat, and predominantly within the Cape Flats area, where so many of our young boys get trapped into gangsterism because those guys fill the voids that fathers should be filling. And I
Mm-mm.
want to say to them, you know what? God has created you for a specific and divine purpose on this earth. And your circumstances that you are born into is not always meant to be what you would expect it to be. But the lessons that you take from it, the
Mm-mm.
lessons you take from that hardships is what should be molding you
Mm.
into the father you want to become. Because
Yeah.
there's an urban legend of a story of two brothers that grew up exactly in the same household. And the one brother became extremely successful, and the other one became a complete washout. So journalists went to this town and they wanted to find out from these two brothers to say, but what is this distinct difference between you? Why, when you come from the same house, does one go into this direction and the other one goes into the other direction? And the first guy that made the success of his life said, you know, my father was a drunkard. He was never present, he was absent.
Yeah.
And I just said to myself, I will never be like my father. I will
Mm-mm.
be better than the father I've had. And when they asked the second brother the same question, he says, you know what? My father was a drunkard. And because he was useless and because he was never there, I just
Mm-mm.
felt that's my life is meant to be that way. And the
Mm-mm.
conclusion in that story, it was all
Yeah.
about attitude, and it was all about, you know, the self-worth that
Yeah.
these two gentlemen developed within themselves. One said, I'll grow out of the circumstances, which I'm hoping is what I have done. And then you get a lot to say, because I've born into a gang family, because I've
Mm-mm.
been born into the Cape Flats, that's just
Yeah.
the way it is. And
Mm.
I want to encourage, especially young men listening to this program tonight, to say, you need to see much more than what you are faced with.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes it's in people, but you need to find a role model that you identify with based on your wants and needs in life. So if you've always had a dream to become a pilot, read stuff about pilots. Find out
Mm.
who's a pilot role model that you can follow. If you
Yeah.
want to be a politician, find the best politician. And what we've seen, especially in the last year
Mm-mm.
with Triple C, if I may mention that, and the PA, here we have two colored gentlemen, one
Mm-mm.
coming from drug addiction and
Yeah.
one coming from prison life. And
Mm-mm.
both these gentlemen are saying, you know what, the fact that I was a drug addict is in
Mm-mm.
my past. And the one that say, because I was in prison, it's in my past. I will now do everything in my power to make sure that my past doesn't
Mm-mm.
become your future. And that's what
Mm-mm.
we should be doing now.
And you said it so very nicely. I think sometimes we blame our past. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. You are very mean. You had a couple of sessions already where we spoke about it. Yes, the playing field is not even. However, we can't use that as an excuse. And like you say, we need to go out there and we need to find, our niche. We need to find out what are we good in. And you know, I think many times we wait for opportunity. Like you mentioned the story of the two gentlemen. I mean, I know many of such stories. The one brother's a gangster, the other brother has his own business, and that is the story all around. I think it's all about attitude. It's all about making use of what we have and moving forward. I just want to come back. I know you're very liberal, and also there's a book where you speak about the democracy of this country. But
Yeah.
I just wanna just go a bit into that. Are we really a people that became lazy and blaming everybody else, and we're now sort of feeling, we are feeling a bit depressed and oppressed because with the new democracy, nothing has really changed for us. Or are we capable of changing that? What is your feel on that?
Stan, I'm going to be very honest and frank with you because beating around the bush and sounding nice and polite on a show like this doesn't help anybody.
That's
We
right.
need we need to accept that within the colored society, and I'm going to specifically speak about the colored society. When we had the chat, when you had another guest on the other day, we had a chat offline where I said to you, I don't think this person has the right to speak on behalf of colored people based on his or her background. Now, I believe I have the right to speak on behalf of colored people,
Mhm.
being one myself.
Yes.
Amongst us, there are people that says, I will become the best that I can be.
Mhm.
And my circumstances, no matter how bad it is, will propel me to the greatness I see.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there are still too many of us that are waiting for a Messiah.
Yeah.
Too many of us wait for somebody to push us. You know,
Yeah.
where I work, I'll be on the 1st of May will be my 19th anniversary in the company where I work. And for
Mhm.
19 years, I'm the only person of color in a management position, managing a complete branch with 30, 40 odd staff. So
Mhm.
I could easily say, here I am, the only person of color amongst all these white guys. I'm never going to make it yet. It's an Afrikaans culture, it's in agriculture. No,
Yeah.
I have made them, I have earned my respect in
Mhm.
terms of my know-how, in terms of how I do my job and how I lead my people. In fact, I've trained 5 white persons to
Yeah.
become brilliant branch managers. You
Mhm.
know that still have contact with me today. Fortunately, when I was in Joburg, I went to a place called Town Square. It's in Hulfok Center on 14th Avenue, close to Roodepoort. And I took a photo outside of that Woolworths branch,
Mhm.
and people were wondering, why am I taking a photo? And a gentleman walked past. I says, do you know what, sir? I opened this branch from scratch. I
Mhm.
employed half of the staff in here. And then
Yeah.
when I went, some of the staff still knew me. I then learned that 2 of the guys have also become branch managers. One of the ladies that was a cashier has now become the admin manager in that store. And I felt proud
Wow.
because I was part of the formation of that place. Yes, somebody else's
Mm.
resources, but I've used those
Yeah.
resources to the best of my ability. So yes, the Cape Flats has got a problem with unemployment and gangs and drugs, and so does Westbury and Ennerdale and Jubilee and Eldorado Park.
Mhm.
All of them have those issues. But
Yeah.
people need to start saying, I am going to take on the role of the prodigal son in a
Mm.
different view, because the prodigal son squandered what he had. And now we're
Yeah.
talking about people who has had nothing, who has been
Mhm.
deprived by politics, by race, by religion, and they need to adopt a prodigal son approach to say, in spite of the circumstances I find myself into, I am
Yeah.
going to do my level best to
Mhm.
get out of this mess.
Mhm.
And when we do that, we will change society. So yes, colored people are marginalized. Otherwise, I would not have associated me with a certain political party that you know. And we are definitely being marginalized.
Mhm.
And it is our time now, and people need to take this opportunity now that we have the voices in the Triple C and within the PA and whoever else is standing up to say,
Mhm.
colored people, stand up, be counted. This is your moment. If we don't take this moment now, I'm of the view, Stan, if colored people don't take this opportunity between now and the national elections in 2024, we are going to be a left behind people forever.
Mhm.
And part of it, and part of what I like and what I see is happening in many communities, simple thing like cleaning graveyards. To many
Mhm.
people, to my wife today, I jokingly I said, I'm going to write a post on Facebook to say, julle wat so die graveyards skoonmaak, het van julle al undertakers geword. And it's it's not about becoming undertakers.
Mhm.
That that is somebody teaching us to say,
Mhm.
take responsibility for
That's
your
right.
own condition. Don't wait
That's
for somebody else to do it. And the young
Mhm.
man in Cape Town, I was privileged. Sorry, Stan. I was privileged to speak to a grade 4 a school in what was the area in Cape Town I went to? But anyhow, I went to go and speak there, and behind the school, a lady by the name of Nodine Peterson invited me because of what I write on Facebook to come
Yeah.
and speak to these learners. And then I went to the school to go speak to these grade fours and grade fives about my journey from being in a children's home to where I am today. But there was a disturbing noise coming from the black block of the school.
Yeah.
And I said, Noreen, what is this? She says, no, a portion of this school has been turned into a drug rehab center. So there's a lot of the young men in the community who, out of their own free will, come here because they want to be rehabilitated and they want to play a meaningful role. And I said, please, can I speak to them? She said, yeah, sure, we can arrange it. So I went down and I found them sitting in a circle. I got there, I introduced myself. I said, guys, these are drug addicts, mind you, right? I said,
Yeah.
can I please speak to you? The guy said to me, yes, you may speak to us, but I don't know who you are, but we've got room here. You don't just come and speak to us. You need to go and ask permission at the office. Now look at this. Drug addicts, sometimes we write them off. But these guys were subscribing to the rules. They said, you don't speak, you get permission, and then you come to speak to us. So I got the permission and I went back and they were sitting in a circle. I also said play down because I like speaking to people at the same level instead of being above them.
Yeah.
And when I started chatting to these young men, I said to them, guys, I'm not here to tell you what you should do.
Mm.
I'm coming to tell you that you are better off than what I am today. And they looked
Yeah.
at me like, as jy mal. Hoe kan jy beter? I said, you know what? You have been judged by society already. You have
Yes.
been written off by society.
Mm-mm.
Everybody knows how supposedly useless you are, how
Yeah.
bad you are. I said,
Mm-mm.
unlike with me, if I can make a mistake today because some people apparently see me as a social influencer on Facebook or something. So can you imagine if something bad is to come out about Earl tomorrow?
Yeah.
It can be disastrous. But for
That's right.
you, it's written off. From this step, you can only become better.
Yes.
So my message coming back to your initial question
Mm-mm.
to our people who feel that let's rather just give up because we've been neglected and nobody cares. Now that you know that, what are you going to do about it?
Mm-mm.
That's
And
the
and you
question.
and you have a very you responded very well. What are you going to do about it? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. Um, Earl, this is the thing. Somehow that pride has left us. Somehow that integrity has left our people. That hard work has left our people. I mean, yes, it was difficult back then, but we worked hard. We made sure, that our children are improvements of us. Like example, my mother left standard 4, my father left standard 1. I had to make sure I finish school because they didn't finish school and I had to go study. The same with me. We always improve every generation, so that we have less of the bad things following us. But this is the thing, we need to get it back into our lives. We can blame a lot of other people. A lot of things has happened in between. But I think just to come back is we need to blame ourselves as well. We need to take back like the graveyards. My mother passed away 2 months ago. Ek is elke derde, vierde dag as ek daar so, maak skoon, ek maak seker. What if we all, I'm not saying everybody's different, but what if instead of waiting for government, what if we go and clean it and keep our things clean, our road clean, look after what we have, then it won't be necessary for people to tell us. I think at the moment now, it looks almost like we are a people that once people must lead us. We need to become also leaders. We have a lot of leaders amongst us, but we don't live that leadership skills or that leader qualities out. And I think, that is one of the things that I feel we maybe need to talk about, the leadership in the color community. Nobody's taking responsibility. Nobody's taking ownership. We're waiting for people to lead us. Aren't we also leaders? I don't know how you feel about that.
We're all leaders. It starts with the teachers. It starts with the parents in the house because we lead, whether we lead our families
Yeah.
and somebody else like I said, somebody else in that street looks up to you. Maybe it's just because of the type of car you drive,
Mm-mm.
because or the way your front stoop looks or your garden
Yeah.
looks. People think that you're better than them. So you're leading in that sense. But you're quite right, Stan. Pastors, teachers, and community leaders, they have given up on their roles in die ou dae die mense gesê, as ek jou kind buite in die yard sien rook, dan bliksem my op. Because
Ja,
hy
ja.
moenie and we can blame government all we like. In my book, Blogs of a Progressive Thinker, I've written 3 letters specifically to colored people,
Mm-mm.
where I'm saying to colored people, first of all, let's lose this PhD syndrome. You know what's the PhD syndrome?
Mm-mm.
Voel him a Down syndrome. Because as dit met Stan
Mm-mm.
goed gaan, en die
Ja,
eerste ding is wat ek wil weet is verkoop hy nou drugs.
ja,
Uh,
ja,
Had hy
ja.
geskoor?
Yes,
So we don't celebrate each other's successes,
yes.
and that's a big problem we have within colored communities. We don't share our skills and our resources.
Ja.
You know, I remember there were days I taught night school. I don't have a teaching qualification, but for a short
Mm.
stint, I taught business economics night school because I'm in business. I understand business,
Ja,
so I used to
ja.
teach that. You know, what has happened to that? I know brilliant guys in maths that used to go out to schools and teach our children maths. You know, in Cape Town, you guys still have it better. In Gauteng and where I am in the northwest, if you
Mm-mm.
go to a school, you can't even call it a college school anymore.
Mm.
Because ons se kinders loop almal in die dorpsskool because hulle maats kan dit afford en dan sê
Ja.
ons die skool in die lokasie se resultate is swak. Hoekom is dit swak? We've
Mm-mm.
taken the best out and we sent them to
Ja,
the Model T school.
ja.
And we don't want to pay. You know that's the other
Mm-mm.
problem state. We don't want to
Ja,
pay
ja,
school fees. I mean, why?
exactly.
And then we say, but people can't pay school fees because hulle is arm. Then
Ja,
you go on the street corner and you look at the types of clothing they wear. Lacoste, Flossum, Dickies.
ja, ja.
So what we claim to be and the way we actually live contradicts one another. And it needs to start, the churches needs to start preaching this stuff again. The
Mm-mm.
schools need to be vocal about this stuff. You weet toe ons
Ja,
op school was, when the schools used to close in June and December, dan die hoof altyd gesê, leerders, onthou nou die skool sluit, maar die water sluit nie. Julle moet wag.
ja,
What
ja.
has happened to that? We
Mm-mm.
can blame government all we want. Stan, black people have got their own issues. They've got an entitlement issue. Most white people still speak from a very privileged point of view. But I
Mm-mm.
can't do anything about the black people's mentality and their attitude. I can't do anything about white people's mentality and their attitude. But I can do everything about
Ja,
my attitude.
there we go.
And example do I set for my people or for
Ja,
our people? Because
mm-mm.
all of us cannot lead, unfortunately, and that's also another
That's right.
reason I think we fail to to be more effective. I mean, we're the second largest population group in South Africa after the Zulus.
Ja,
So what I'm basically saying to you, if the Coloureds just woke up one night to say, "Van Mora af, come
mm-mm.
hello, we will support one leader, whether it's Stan or whether it's Earl, we will
Mm-mm.
support just one leader
Ja,
or we will vote for him." That's on the
ja,
government. But
exactly.
because the son since came on mekaar se stoepe nie, that
Ja,
is
ja.
why we are so divided. And unfortunately, the people that have been very successful at dividing us still
Mm-mm.
continue to enjoy that privilege because ons wil nie van onsself opstaan.
En het nou iets baie goed gemense na so die PhD pull him or her down. I think that is one of the biggest problems is us supporting each other. I always say this that we, like you said now, as ons môre opstaan en ons besluit ons gaan 'n province oorvat, ons gaan vir een persoon nou die opportunity gee om ons te lei, dan kan dinge outomaties in die volgende 2, 3 jaar anders te lyk as wat dit nou lyk. Meer jobs opportunities kan vir ons mense geskep word, meer skole kan ek meen as jy kyk, nie baie het baie verander in ons gemeenskappe nie. Dit is actually baie meer worse nou. Ek meen as jy kyk 'n paar jaar terug het ons mense nog werk gehad. There was work for us, there's opportunity for us. And we had the opportunity to do our own thing. Now because of BE. And I don't know how you feel about this. I feel we are excluded from that actually. And we need to take that back because what is happening is it's part of the new segregation system, keeping us away from each other. Ek dink al dat een van die grootste dinge wat ons moet aan werk is om vir mekaar te support. ons moet leer om vir mekaar bly te wees. As al 'n nuwe job het, 'n nuwe kar het, oh, well done. Ek dink as jy kyk na ons mense, dis baie hartseer vir hulle. Dis baie moeilik vir hulle om te sê well done. Is amper soos jy moet nie vorentoe gaan nie want ek is supposed om dit te hê. Daar is vir almal opportunity. We need to realize that almal kan van die pie eat. Almal is supposed to be successful, but somehow, somewhere, somebody put it in our heads that only one colored person at a time, and we need to change that because I think that is one of the things keeping us back is that we don't celebrate each other. We need to learn to celebrate each other and to celebrate with one another. And daai bring my by die volgende vraag al. You know, you were very liberal about, our parties. Are you seeing any change? Ons beweeg nou weer van die boek af, maar ek wil net 'n bietjie weet van Earl because I know you write about this in your books as well. Are we
Mm.
moving away from from the true point, or are we moving in a direction where it looks like we are gonna get together, we are gonna stand together, we're gonna get our own government and our own people leading us in politics?
Stan, and I'm going to be very frank. Um, if you see what the Patriotic Alliance has done since the elections in November, first of
Yeah.
all, I think they're still the only political party on the ground.
Mm-mm.
They're still the only political party working towards those 5 key manifesto points there. But are they doing everything right? I don't necessarily agree that they're doing everything right.
Mm-mm.
And I
Mm-mm.
don't think it's meant for them to do
Mm-mm.
everything right from the onset.
Yeah.
So we must allow that some people will be disappointed and maybe
Mm-mm.
even disillusioned by what is happening in terms of who you see holding political office, who you see leading. But that is bound to happen. But I personally still think that they are the only political movement at the moment
Yeah.
consistently speaking about colored people.
Mm-mm.
When it looks at Triple C, um, and Fadil, when I listen to some of the videos I see Fadil does in the city council, he truly has his heart for colored people, man. There is no ways anybody can make me believe otherwise that Fadil doesn't have his heart for his people. Maar kan
Yeah.
jy nou imagine a Gayton McKenzie as a president and a
Mm-mm.
Fadil as deputy president, of a
Mm-mm.
Fadil president and a Gayton as the deputy president? That's the first step that we should do.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
If we sort that out, then we need to go sort out the other brothers, the Koi and the Sun, because
Yeah.
that's not. Because the biggest problem with us as colored people, first of all, we've got two very influential leaders in their own right,
Yeah.
and I think need support from whoever supports them. But
Mm-mm.
then there's the identity issue. If we
Mm.
can't even decide what are we,
Yeah.
then we govern.
Mm-mm.
Ons
True.
moet besluit of ons is colored of ons is Khoisans, maar ons het
Yeah.
groot geword as colored. And whether
That's
it's
right.
a derogatory term or whatever, we've become accustomed to it. We've never felt,
Mm.
at least I have never felt ashamed to be called a colored.
Yeah.
Inteendeel, ek was volgens my ID van die ou dae as ek 'n ander colored, ek is te swart om 'n colored te wees. Ek weet nie
Yeah.
wat jy sê nie, maar ek is te swart om 'n colored te wees. But if we support these leaders and we can get these leaders to come together,
Mm-mm.
then colored people will take their rightful place.
Mm-mm.
Because if you see what happens within the black cultures, within the ANC, they are quite a diverse mix of cultures. And this is why they're having this leadership battles and struggles that they have in there. And then if you look at is, is Julius is not even been seen as a vendor or somebody from
Yeah.
Limpopo. He's been seen as pure black
Yeah.
and poor pro, even though his lifestyle contradicts that. But people
Mm-mm.
believe it because they identify with one body, one
Mm-mm.
person. Within
That's
the
right.
ANC, they identify, they have all these fights, but once they've selected a leader for that 5 years,
Yeah.
irrespective of the shenanigans that happens in between, they
Mm-mm.
they, they identify. But here we sit, two very influential people, and we are divided. So we split the
That's
vote.
right.
So can you imagine if
Mm-mm.
if the seats that Triple C got in Cape Town and the seats that the PA got in Cape Town were combined under one party, then we could have been also in a coalition government.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Then we could have placed our people into a position where change can start happening. I know this in Beaufort West the other day. They had this issue about what the hell is Gayton doing there. So I
Yeah.
wrote I took out my best Afrikaans and I wrote them a nice letter on the group to explain
Mm.
them, guys, you don't understand. Here you
Mm-mm.
have a that claims he wants to go into national office to become the president of the country. So he's
Yeah.
now been appointed
Mm-mm.
by whatever means as the district mayor in that
Yeah.
coalition in Central Karoo. You guys, out of all the patriots, have the cream of the
Mhm.
crop because you have the
Mm.
president there, and he's
Yeah.
not going to fail. He's not going to let anybody say Gayton has failed. So
Yeah.
chances are that you guys will probably envisage and realize true election promises by
Mm-mm.
having him than not having him there.
Yeah.
En dis wat kon in die Kaap gebeur het. Jy weet
Mm.
as Fadil die oorweldigende support gehad het, daai super colors. We still have too
Yeah.
many super colors voting for another party I don't want to mention with the color blue. And if they can just get away from them and just
Mm.
hulle moet net 'n aardskudding bietjie veroorsaak in die Kaap.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
maybe somebody will take the Cape Flats story seriously.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
Maar as se vote nog steeds in Woolsley, there was an
mm-mm.
election last week. In my view, even though the PA had a very good showing, the DA still had a landslide victory there. I mean, 700 to 600 versus the PA. So
Yeah.
still, too many people believe that net hy mense kan dit reg doen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And
and it's because we've discounted our own ability to do
yes.
things
Yes.
right.
But you're actually touching on a point now. You know that actually I spoke about a few weeks ago. We have that inferior complex. We don't think we are suitable. We don't think we can. Ons dink ons kan dit doen nie. Yet het ons baie on ons mense, baie goeie leiers. Daar's mense, professionele mense, daar's lawyers, daar's dokters, daar's engineers. But why do we still have this thing that we feel that we are not good enough? I think there is also something that we have been conditioned to do is to not believe in ourselves in our people. And that actually makes me think about your book just next to you, Aspire to Inspire. How do we
Yeah.
inspire our people? Just talk about that, that we need to start believing in ourselves. Dit is 'n groot ding. Ons glo nie in onsself nie. Ons glo ons is goed genoeg nie.
Stan, dis wat ek soms probeer doen deur my skryfwerk. I try and use my personal experiences and sometimes stuff that could have cost me my careers, and I write it down because I want people to learn from that. But I'm also sometimes very frank where I need to say to people, just wake up and smell the coffee,
Mm,
uh, because inspiration shouldn't always just be nice words to make people feel good for a moment.
mm,
Sometimes inspiration needs to be a factual or a true and an innocent talk that you have, a real talk where
mm,
you say to people, you know what, this gangsterism nonsense can nie meer geduld word. This
mm.
is how many people are dying. You saw the post I wrote the other day, bang,
Yeah,
bang, bang.
yeah,
So we need to speak out about this. And we need to say, my brother, is it really worth it for you to stand on the street corner for somebody else to gain a territory and for
mm,
your parents to mourn the loss of your life
yeah,
2 or 3 weeks later? So inspiration for me must be both nice, but it must also be to the point, straight praat, moenie doekies omdraai nie. Because as soos AIDS,
mm,
you can't tell people AIDS kills and then you
mm,
still encourage young children at school to have a choice to be gay or not to be gay, if you understand
mm,
what am I saying. And I'm not saying that gay people are the reason for AIDS, so I don't want to be misquoted on that one.
mm,
Um, but we need to be straight to the point. Ons moet aanvaar dis of 'n ding is reg of hy's verkeerd. En
mm,
en inspiration staan is nie altyd in boeke nie. The
mm,
inspiration is net om jy's vir my, you are an inspiration to so many people on the Cape Flats by this simple program.
yeah,
And I've listened when your buddy passed away
yeah,
a few months ago. May his soul rest in peace. How he used to encourage you with the Cape Flat stories and
yeah,
what ideas he still had for it. You could have stopped when he had died.
yeah, yeah,
You could have stopped, but you
mm,
have a purpose because you're using this as a vehicle to inspire. The fact that you're having me on here today
Yeah.
inspires me because here's somebody that doesn't know me from above, so who
Mm-mm.
I've just interacted with once or twice, that all
Mm-mm.
of a sudden realizes the value I
Mm-mm.
seem to present because that
Mm-mm.
value is not been tried and that value
Yeah.
is not been tested. You're taking it
Mm-mm.
at face value. And you say,
Mm.
let me take what I have at face value
Yeah.
and see what I can do. And this is what we do, need to do more. So
Mm-mm.
colored people are great, you know. Um, in my new book, I honor you. I write about 40 people who inspired me in my life. So each chapter will have the name of the person I'm writing about.
Wow.
But but now there is one specific person that I've never met
Mm-mm.
that I've included in that book, and it's Paxton Phillips. Because to
Wow.
me, when Paxton Phillips won Idols,
Mm-mm.
she, and we all know how that first video of hers came about when she was singing
Yeah.
to a buddy in school, and
Mm-mm.
eventually that video
Yes.
ended up at
Yes.
Idols. And I rooted for Paxton that entire season, man.
Yeah.
If you go back to it, I rooted for her. But when
Mm-mm.
Paxton Phillips won Idols,
Mm-mm.
the girls on the Cape Flats all
Mm.
won. Because
That's right.
every single girl child on the Cape Flats
Yeah. Yeah.
that has the ability to sing
Yeah.
has the potential to be as great as Paxton. Listen to
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Mm.
They have the potential to be as great as Paxton. I don't want
That's
them to be Paxton
right. Mm-mm.
because Paxton is Paxton within her own right.
There we go.
The Davids family are the Davids family, especially David. She's
Yeah.
especially David within her own right.
That's right.
Jonathan Ruben is Jonathan Ruben in his own
That's
right.
right. That's
But
right.
who is Stan? Who is Stan? So Stan's
Mm-mm.
qualities may not be to sing.
No.
It may not be to write, but he's a
Mm-mm.
brilliant host of a
Mm-mm.
social media group. So
Yeah.
who else is there in Cape Town that also
Mm-mm.
has the ability that Stan has to say, I want to be like Stan?
That's
You
right.
know, I
Mm-mm.
started to write long before long before I was privileged to meet Gayton and to
Yeah.
travel with Gayton
Mm-mm.
and to understand who the man is.
Yeah.
I started to write because I felt to hell with this. How can he come from jail and become a bestseller? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So so we 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 inspire people by what we do, but we
Mm-mm.
also inspire people by being authentic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
en as ek vandag sien, and I don't want to promote people, but one of the most authentic people that I've met in my life, I met 12 months on this journey with the PA,
Mm-mm.
was Ashley Pauls, who's popularly known to people as Umbiza Fanipa. And you've
Mm-mm.
heard him on the show one day in a debate
Yeah.
with Fadil. But that guy's hard. I used to share a room with him when we traveled.
Yeah.
Uh, and what we spoke about in private,
Mm-mm.
I see him now executing in public office.
Wow.
And
Mm-mm.
must I now be jealous of Umbiza because he's doing well, because he's got 100,000 and more fans? I mean,
Yeah.
today, the shopping mall, he raised 10,000 rand for a girl that I think, for a young
Mm.
lady that wanted to study.
Yeah.
And colored people came, I mean, from as far as Australia, and they
Mm.
donated. So why can't
Yeah.
we do this every day of our lives, Ted?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
how we will inspire people by being
Mm-mm.
authentic, by
Mm-mm.
being there for them.
That's right.
Sometimes you give people the best inspiration by just lending an ear to listen.
Mm-mm. And you are so right. We all have our own unique gift. Paxton, I remember that video. She's saying at school. I think the guy was playing the guitar and she was like singing, and
Yes,
that video went all over. And at the time, we just knew this girl could sing. I think there was a second video at as well, and then it wasn't long after that. I think a year or two, boom, Paxton won. And look at her now. Look at where she's now. Okay, all our celebrities are getting the hardships and that, but she's still going and she's doing very well for herself. But it was also for her to get out of her comfort zone, sharing
yes.
a gift with others, singing with others, and look at where she is today. I mean, it obviously opened doors for her. And as you mentioned, I think Earl, the problem that we have is that we don't want to expose ourselves to show our gift. Sometimes you are gonna get criticism, but you
Mm,
have to come out and say, okay, I'm gonna show you what I'm good at. I maybe might not be good at singing or playing guitar or being a mayor, but I'm good at baking cake. I'm good at making chicken. So we all are differently, and as something I think somebody once said, our gift will make room for us, and we all
Yes.
are born with a gift, and we all have a gift. It just needs to be nurtured. I was in the mall today, like you mentioned previously. I saw a young man walking past the bookshop to go buy sports scene techies, to go to all and expensive techies. But in the bookshop, there's books that we can buy and empower ourselves. We spend so much money on material things that we forget to actually spend, money on, or not money, but getting knowledge from books, getting knowledge from people. And the only way by getting knowledge and or the only way by growing, mentally, is by reading books, is by listening to people's testimonies, following people. And we need to maybe encourage our young people to read more, to invest more. I mean, ek weet nie of jy dieselfde is nie, maar as ek instap by 'n winkel en daar's 'n boekwinkel, I have to buy me a book. Like today, I had to buy me a book, because I had this thing where many years ago, I told myself, if you want to empower yourself, you need to buy a book. You need to read somebody else's mistakes. Like Earl made a lot of mistakes when you were young. So if I buy Earl's book, I will learn from his mistakes. I will learn from what Earl has done, and I don't have to start where he is at, but I can actually grow from where I'm now. So Earl, how do we get hold of your books? Ons het op baie gepraat, maar hoe kry jy jou boek in die hande?
Uh, die beste stem, dankie vir daai, maar voor ek net die marketing deel doen, kom ek net sê, they say the big success of apartheid
Mm-mm.
was to take knowledge away from people,
That's right.
to degrade the schooling system so that they would always lag behind those who were in the most privileged position. And this is
Yeah.
why it's so important to read. En as is te geneig om die jokes te lees op
Mm-mm.
Facebook en al daai,
Yeah.
en dan is 'n lang post sien wat kom en dan los ons om, and sometimes there's
Yeah.
value in the post, maar sometimes is daar baie meer value in 'n korter post ook. Maar ja,
That's right.
I've written these books, and I may just say to the listeners, everybody's tuned into this book, into the show tonight. The fact that I have been gifted by God to write
Mm-mm.
doesn't make me better than anyone who's listening to the show. I'm just trying to, instead of bearing my talents, to say I've got an unfair master who's given me one talent and is going to one back 10. I'm one of those who rather choose ek het maar gaan woeker met die talente. So
Mm-mm.
ek het maar skryf, and like I say, I've been writing since 2009,
Mm-mm.
and I still don't have a publisher. I still self-publish. And the problem with self-publishing, it means you have to outlay the cash in advance in order
Yeah.
to have the book printed.
That's
You
right.
need to use tools like this to market the books and hopefully to get people to buy the books.
Yeah.
So you need to add a bit of a price to the book.
That's
And
right.
when I initially wrote the first copy of My Quest for Happiness, I think I printed 200 copies and I sold probably 10, and the rest I gave away for exposure. And I
Yeah.
soon realized that exposure doesn't help if it's for free.
Yeah.
There's a profound speaker that says when he speaks at a school, even if he doesn't charge the school, he says to them, I'm giving you an invoice for 50,000 and I'm
Yeah.
giving you 100% discount so that you understand the value of my work.
Yeah.
So I have priced these books because of the value that I've put into it and the time that I've put into it. My
Yeah.
Quest for Happiness is available at 180 Rand.
Mm-mm.
20 years post-democracy, as reconciliation failed, is available at 180 Rand.
Mm-mm.
Aspire to Aspire is available at 180 Rand. And then
Yeah.
Blogs of Progressive Thinker, if
Mm.
you've never followed my Facebook post, you can read them because this is basically Facebook posts and stories
Yeah.
coming from 2015 up to now. And
Mm-mm.
this book retails at 250 Rand. It's double the size of the others. But
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
normally do, I say to people, if you buy all of these books individually, it will cost you about 800 Rand.
Mm-mm.
But should you buy the bundle, I will
Mm-mm.
pre-sell them for you and I
Mm-mm.
will post it to your doorstep for
Yeah.
750 Rand.
Wow. Wow.
So that's it. So if people are interested, Stan, they can inbox me on my Facebook
Mm-mm.
and send me their details, or they can send me a mail to earlkey at gmail.com. So it's my name, EARLTJIE at gmail.com.
Mm-mm.
And then they can then contact me that way. So it's either that or a direct message on my Facebook. And
Yeah,
then we can make plans to get the books out to them. And I'm really hoping that these books will add value to whoever reads them.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's the best thing. It's better than sliced bread, and somebody else may think it's a whole lot of rubbish. But you won't
yeah.
know unless you buy the books. You must
That's
buy
right.
them to get to read them. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, I also published the book. I'm also busy with my second book, and it's not easy. Um, I know that you have to put money down, especially when you're a self-published author. You get a lot of criticism because hoeke skryf jy boeke, kan jy boeke skryf, and all those type of things. I've got one book that did very well. I sold quite a few copies. The second one is now about to come out. So I understand.
Well,
And we shouldn't add money to the books because it's knowledge that you're sharing. Unfortunately, my stories are more fiction, but you are sharing your life story with people, your journey. I mean, the books in that. So you know what? If I go to the shop today, I bought a book from Dion Meyer. I'm not gonna lie to you, almost cost me 400 rand. And I
yeah, yeah.
didn't mind to spend it because I'm a big follower of him. And I will do the same for you as well. So when we do invest in books, it's not about paying the money. It's about what the person is sharing with us because it is what you have put in there, the time and the effort. If it
Mm.
was now a published book through a publishing house, and I just want to put it out there for the people. You don't have to take out money; they do everything for you. But in your case, you have to do all the work, and I know the difficulty. I know the struggle and the challenges. So we need to support you. Please do send me also maybe a copy of your books, and I'll put it on here in the week with your details. And maybe some people in your area or people will maybe contact you for a copy of the book. So I will do it from my side to promote it. But I think that I want to, tell people to buy the book because it is something that we need to do. And that is where it starts. That is how we support our people by buying a book and by reading our stories and by celebrating each other's stories. So, from my side, Earl, thank you so much for sharing the time with me, speaking about your journey, and also, encouraging our people in a positive way.
Stan, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody who's tuned in. I really hope that the snippets we've shared between Stan and myself will serve as motivation. And remember, take what's important to you. Just take the one thing that maybe
Mm-mm,
resonates with you tonight, and work on that, and disregard the rest, because then the rest is absolutely not useful for you. Everybody that listens will find something specific that is just meant for them. And Stan, continue to do this work. And again, my brother, this
that's
is
right.
when we say colored people are marginalized. This should have been a TV show. You know, if things were equal in this country, you should have had your own show by now, national TV, where we can celebrate our people
Mm-mm,
in the manner we do. I'm truly humbled by what you've done, and by giving me and sharing this platform with me, and
mm-mm,
hopefully in the future I'll be able to do likewise.
mm-mm,
Thank you very much, my brother.
mm-mm. Definitely. And all the best, Earl. And don't worry, I'll support you. I'll be in contact with you this week. And let's keep supporting each other. If me and you start this, somebody else will see, and we continue doing this. And this way, we make the fields level and even for each one of us. Earl, thank you so much, and have a blessed Sunday further.
God bless, my brother. Stay strong.
Thanks, I. Cheers. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Earl Smiles. And he's an author. Please do buy his book. I will put it up later on this week again. Please do support him. It's important for us to support one another. He said a lot of things about himself growing up without a father, the difficulties earlier in the program. And there is things that he also says in his books, and it's important for us. That is the story of many people on the Cape Flats, youngsters. Ons raak groot sonder 'n pa. We grow up in soos hulle sê stoute huise. We go to special schools, and some of us become worse, and some of us tend to actually excel. But we need to start. giving our children also books about people that was in the same situation and that managed to change their lives, because that is the way how we reach out to our young people. People get very upset when you talk to them about the reality on the Cape on what's currently happening. We are to blame for this. We are to blame for many things. People got upset because I said earlier on my post that, ons met die mense pimp, we need to stand up. Hoe kan dit hy sê, are we just going to leave it? Are we just going to leave things so that it get out of hand? Or are we going to stand up and are we going to stand together and make this thing go away? Because the end of the day, it's not about what the government can do, but it's what we can do as people together for ourselves. People say, what doen zij? You know, my weekends, my weeks is so difficult. Every night after 5 o'clock, there's workshops that I have to attend, workshops that I have to help with. There's a lot of things that I do from my side, and nobody can point a finger at me and to say, Stan, but say praat by you. No, no, no. I do work in my community. I always read it, the comments people post there, what doen zij? We as people, yes, we talk on Facebook. We are very liberal about our, things on Facebook, but we do our part in our communities. We put in a lot of times. We sacrifice our times away from our families to make sure things are getting better on the Cape Flats. So people need to respect other people as well. Stop making these comments, where people feel we do nothing. We do a lot for our community. A lot of our own funding, like government don't give us funding. You know, people don't support us because apparently, as bang ons gaan die geld steal. So because we have a passion, because we have a mandate, the Cape Flats needs to change in the next 3 to 5 years. For that reason, me and a lot of other men and women are working tirelessly and making sure that things are gonna change on the Cape Flats. And by doing so, support local people, support local authors. Everything we need to do is that all we need to do is just to change our mindset in supporting one another, and make sure that we as people, as colored people, stand and celebrate one another. We are very much selfish when it comes to celebrating each other. Ons is te bang dat die next persoon gaan vorentoe gaan. We won't support him and we won't celebrate him. We need to change that. And by doing that, we promote our own people, and we make sure, when we support each other, we do it to the best of our abilities. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I spoke a lot, but you know what? We are not going to change gangsterism overnight. It's a process. It's a thing that we're going to have to change. Fatherless homes, we're not going to change it overnight. We need to look at women needs to, vrouwmensen, I was thinking today actually, a lot of the recent killings of innocent women was because of they were dating a gangster. They have a child from a gangster. When you date somebody, when you go out with somebody, you must make a decision. If I date this gangster, if I date this drug lord, they're gonna come for me as well. So you might live this fancy life. I look at this young ladies, gangsters driving fancy cars. You can think for yourself, they don't work. Where do they get the money from? Um, and a lot of ladies, young ladies, know these gangsters. They like it when these gangsters take them out and these drug lords take them out and buy them fancy clothing, buy them fancy shoes, give them money. We need to stop that. You're putting your own life in danger, and that's why a lot of colored kids are dying. And we need to talk about this nonsense of our people um, allowing die ma en die pa wit, of die ma wit, die kind se boyfriend is a gangster, but you are allowing him into your house. You are allowing him to buy food for you. That's things that is actually causing a lot of uh, 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 um, harm in our communities, because that gangster that is coming to your house, that money that you are eating from, it's money that was, uh, uh, um, blood money that they actually stole or killed somebody for. So we need to change that small things. Who we allow into our house, who we allow to date our children. I can tell you this: I have been around the block a couple of times, and I have seen how mothers, especially mothers, cover up for these gangsters. Um, the ma weet the klong is a gangster. I mean, there's a situation. This is a good example. A 16-year-old girl, and I won't go further into it. The 16-year-old girl is dating a 40-year-old man. A 16-year-old girl is dating a 40-year-old man. And when you confront this girl and when you talk to her about this guy is too old for you, die man is jy op 'n petisie, dan moet jy hoor hoe praat sy, hoe vloek sy, hulle uit die ma en die pa is ewens bang om met die kind te praat. And that is the type of things that we need to address in our homes. Ek weet is moeilik, is dit goed wat ons wil praat hier, but you can only fix your community. You can only fix the cape flesh if you fix our homes. Everything starts in our homes. It starts here where we make decisions. It starts here where we, talk to our children and when we teach our children, the value of life. Stop, our young girls, please stop dating gangsters. We've seen many young girls got shot the last couple of weeks. Sy weet wat jy inlaat voor. When you make yourself a target when you date these guys, and I say die mense, oh, hy was 'n goeie man gewees, this is not gang related. But if you investigate the case, it's gang related. You know, if you want to live a fancy lifestyle, if you want to live a good lifestyle, wear expensive clothing, if you want to, live the life of a king and a queen, go study, make something of yourself, and you will also earn good money. Become a professional. But if you date a gangster, if you date a merchant, you are becoming a target. Young girls, you are becoming a target. You need to stop that. You need to stay in your lane. That is what they say. Stay in your lane. Date a man that is hardworking. Date a man that can look after you. And that's niks om swaar te kry. And at the end of the day, I've learned this, and I'm going to end with this. When you pass away, all these nice things that stay behind. We chase after money, we chase after paper. And the day when we pass away, then you realize, just before you go into your eternity, ek het so hard gewerk alle jare, ek het so 'n mooi huis gebou, ek het sulke kwai karre gery, but yeah, I'm going alone into my eternity without the material things. Search for things that adds value to your life. As a money value add in your lewe in nie, dan behoort dit nie in jou lewe in nie. And that is what I want to leave to our young girls. Please choose a right man. Don't just choose any guy because hy het 'n kwai kar en hy het status, hy's 'n gangster. We need to, it is traumatizing to see a lot of 21, 22-year-old girls wat so 'n boyfriend sit because hulle boyfriend is doodgeskiet, Die kinders witness ook die pa word doodgeskiet. It's unnecessary trauma in your family generations or in your family tree. Guys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen, have an awesome evening and God bless.